Have you ever really stopped to think about it? Just how much of who you are, your identity, is, well, tied up with your family.
Hmm.
It's more than just, DNA or sharing the same house. It feels much deeper, like where the real blueprints for life get drawn up.
Yeah, those foundational experiences, they really shape us, the emotional bedrock, you could say.
Exactly. Well, welcome, curious listener, to the deep dive. Today, we're doing just that, diving deep into how family, in all its complexity, influences who we become.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, well, it feels especially relevant for you. I know you come from elementary education, and you've got this growing interest in identity, in psychology,
That's a great combination.
right, and understanding those young minds in your classroom. Well, today's insights are going to give you a whole new lens, I think, a really powerful one.
Definitely.
Our main guide for this journey is some really fascinating material, excerpts from Family Processes and Identity by Eugenia Scabini and Claudia Mansi.
Ah, yes. That's from the Handbook of Identity Theory and Research, a really solid source.
Exactly. But this isn't about getting lost in dry theory. It's about connecting those big ideas to the real living dynamics you see every day, the ones shaping the kids you work with.
Making practical.
That's the goal. Our mission today, to really unpack how family processes from, what a family is as a group, to the subtle ways it molds us as individuals, how all that shapes identity.
It's a big topic.
It is. But expect some, well, surprising facts, maybe some aha moments.
Yeah.
And definitely practical connections you can take straight back to your classroom. I'm genuinely excited about what we're going to uncover.
And my job here, as always, is to help us pull together all this rich information, connect those dots, understand not just what's happening in families, but why it matters so much for how we develop.
It's looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. Exploring the nuances, the implications, how these forces play out, both inside the family and outside, like in your classroom. We want to give you a really critical understanding you can use right away.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. When we say family, what are we actually talking about?
It seems simple, but it's not.
Right. Most people probably picture parents, kids, maybe siblings, grandparents, just a collection of people, the individuals. But the core idea from Scabini and Mansi, the thing they really want us to get, is that family is way more than that. It's a unique, complex social organism, a dynamic whole.
That term dynamic whole is key. It means the family itself has an identity separate from the people in it.
Okay, hang on. Dynamic whole. It sounds important. What does that really mean?
Well, it's a concept that Kurt Lewin, a really influential psychologist, introduced back in 1951. It changed how we saw groups.
How so?
Okay, so two parts. Whole means the group, the family, is fundamentally different from just adding up its members. Person A plus person B plus person C, it doesn't equal the family. It's like a new entity emerges with its own properties, its own way of being, almost its own personality.
Like 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 somehow.
Exactly. And the dynamic part is just as crucial. It stresses that what defines this whole isn't just similarity between members, but their intense interdependence, their connectedness.
Okay, interdependence.
Yeah, the constant back and forth influence they have on each other and on the whole system. Think about a school play your class might put on.
Okay, yeah.
Each kid has their lines, their personality, their role, but the play itself, the performance, the story, the feeling it creates that has a collective identity. Right?
Totally. A flow, a meaning beyond any one kid.
Precisely. And it's dynamic because if one child forgets a line or improvises, it instantly affects everyone else on stage, the whole scene, the audience's experience.
Ah, I see. They're all connected.
Deeply interdependent. The family works just like that same kind of critical, interconnected dynamic.
That's a really helpful analogy. It makes it much clearer how the parts create something new. So it's interesting then that family researchers, after Lewin, sort of moved away from just studying families as like small natural groups. Why? What makes families so different from, say, a project team?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of what makes families unique. Scholars realize that while, yes, families are small groups, they have these fundamental qualities that set them apart. Two big ones, really.
Okay, what's the first?
Function. Think about a work group or that project team in your class. Their main goal is usually efficiency, productivity, right? Getting a task done.
Yeah, finish the poster, do the presentation.
Exactly. But the family's primary role, it's totally different. Its core function is the development of its members, nurturing growth, shaping identity, passing on values, and at the same time, developing the family itself as an entity.
Wow, okay. So growing people and growing the system, not just producing something.
You got it. That's a huge difference.
And the second difference?
The temporal dimension. Time. Most small groups have a limited lifespan, right? Your project team works together for a few weeks and it disbands or changes.
Sure.
But the family, by definition, it has this rich past, present, and future, this continuity, this shared history, and this expectation of a future together that's absolutely vital for identity.
Yeah.
You carry your family's story with you, always. It's ongoing.
That makes perfect sense, this deep history and future orientation. Okay, so this leads us right into family systems theory. People like Bateson, Bowen, Mnuchin. They built on these ideas, right?
They absolutely did. Family systems theory became this foundational lens for researchers and therapists and tried to balance this idea of the family as a whole, an irreducible unit.
Right, the dynamic whole.
While also recognizing that it only exists because of the interactions between its members. It's this constant interplay.
So how does it see the members?
It views family members as parts of interconnected subsystems. Like, the married couple is one subsystem, the siblings are another. Even each individual person is a subsystem with their own autonomy, but still deeply connected to and influencing the others and the whole family system.
Like nested dolls, almost.
Yeah.
Each level affects the others.
That's a good way to think about it. Your identity gets shaped by the rules, the patterns, the dynamics within all these interlocking subsystems you belong to.
But I remember hearing that early systems theory sometimes missed things, like the bigger picture, family history, culture.
You're absolutely right. Early versions often focus very intensely on the here and now interactions, what's happening right now in the room.
Okay.
But starting around the 1990s, there was a big push to integrate those missing pieces. People like Uri Bronfenbrenner with his ecological systems theory.
Ah, yes. Microsystem, mesosystem.
Exactly. He showed how we're all nested in these layers: family, community, society, culture. So newer models, like the relational symbolic model from Scabini and Manzi, explicitly bring in that larger context. The family's culture, its history, its place in society. Families don't exist in a vacuum.
That seems crucial. Okay, so let's talk about Scabini and Manzi's relational symbolic model. They define family first as an organized system. What does organized mean here?
It means it's not just random. It has structure, often unspoken rules, and an internal hierarchy, especially clear in parent-child relationships. And this organized system interacts deliberately with its sociocultural context. It has a purpose.
And it organizes, what do they call them, primary relationships?
Yes, and here they make a really important distinction, one we often blur in everyday talk: the difference between relationship and interaction.
Oh, interesting. I probably use them interchangeably.
Most of us do, but they're quite different. Interaction is the surface level, the here and now exchange, the words, the gestures, what you can see happening in a moment, like ripples on a pond.
Okay, the observable stuff.
Right. But relationship is deeper. It's the invisible current underneath. It's what binds people together over time. It's built on shared values, meanings, rituals, roles, things agreed upon, explicitly or implicitly.
Ah, so it's the history and the commitment behind the interactions.
Precisely. It's the glue. You have interactions with strangers, but you don't have a relationship in this deep sense. Relationships imply depth, history, and a shared future.
That really clarifies things. Okay, so family relationships are primary in this deep sense. And they say they're primary in two specific ways. The first is about societal survival.
Correct. Family relationships bridge those fundamental human divides, gender, generations, and crucially, they create future generations. Society needs that to continue.
Makes sense.
Now, the authors Scabini and Manzi, they focus mainly on nuclear and extended heterosexual families with biological kids, noting these are the most widespread forms globally. They do acknowledge other family forms exist, but for their specific theory here, that's their main focus.
Got it. And the second way, family relationships are primary. This one really struck me, especially thinking about kids. Inescapable membership.
This is huge, especially for you as an educator. Family membership imposes these incredibly powerful constraints on development that you just can't opt out of.
You can't just quit your family.
Right. You might leave a role, like an adult child might choose not to be the main caregiver, but you can't escape membership. Children certainly don't choose their family.
No choice at all.
And researchers like Froma Walsh point out that even if people cut ties, act like they're not connected, it's often to the detriment of their own sense of identity. That family influence, good or bad, stays with you. It's foundational, indelible.
Wow. Okay, pause here. For you, listener, in your elementary education world, this is so powerful. Think about it. Every child walks into your room already carrying this fundamental family identity. It's a given for them. They didn't choose it, but it's woven into who they are. It shapes their self-concept, how they see the world, how they interact, all before they even meet you. They are, in so many ways, shaped by this primary inescapable group. It's part of their story.
Absolutely. So, tying this all together, Scabini and Manzi define the family as an organization of primary relationships that connects and binds together different genders and different generations to give rise to a new generation. That intergenerational link, that history, that purpose of creating the future, that's central.
They even gave that interesting example about young adults living at home longer in Southern Europe. It wasn't just about money, was it?
Not entirely. They frame it as a kind of protective form that emerges when society is, well, unfair to young people, fewer jobs, harder to afford housing.
So the family steps in.
Exactly. It becomes a safety net, a support system. It shows how families adapt to their wider environment, creating unique cultural patterns based on the exchange between generations in response to societal pressures. Families aren't islands. They react.
Okay, so we've got a much richer idea now of what family means as this unique system. So let's zoom in on family identity. How do Scabini and Manzi break that down? It seems like there are different levels.
There are. They look at it on 3 crucial levels, moving from the whole group down to the individual. First up is family identity at the group level.
The identity of the family itself.
Right. And this goes way beyond just structure, like who's in the family tree. It's about the symbolic qualities of the bonds within that family, the intangible stuff that makes it properly human.
Symbolic qualities, like what?
Things like intimacy, emotional support, satisfaction, empathy, commitment, but also concepts like family obligation, filial responsibility, shared family values. These deep, often unspoken threads.
And the quality of these bonds.
Yeah.
It really matters for outcomes.
Usually. Research consistently shows it. If those relationships are warm, supportive, high in these positive symbolic qualities, you see much better psychosocial health for the members.
Like what Feaster and Saposnik found.
Exactly. But if those qualities are missing, if relationships are chaotic, distant, full of conflict, then you see more distress, more substance use, poorer health overall. Like Dishon's work showed, these aren't just nice ideas, they have real consequences.
Okay, so these symbolic qualities, Scabini and Manzi link them to 2 core dimensions of the family bond, right? Something about emotional, affective, and ethical legal.
That's their key framework here, the principle of caring. They argue the family bond has 2 essential complementary dimensions. First, the emotional affective dimension.
Okay.
This is rooted in what Erik Erikson called trust hope. Think basic trust, warmth, affection, feeling secure, relying on each other. It's the feeling that the family is a safe base, the nurturing part.
The cozy feeling.
Yeah.
And the other one, ethical legal, sounds a bit formal.
It does, but it's not about courts or laws. It's rooted in justice loyalty, drawing on ideas from therapists like Bazarmeni Nagy. Think of it as an invisible ledger within the family.
A ledger.
Yeah, of fairness, responsibility, loyalty, obligations across generations. It's about fulfilling your part, recognizing each person's worth, maintaining fairness. If trust hope is the warmth, justice loyalty is the strong structure holding it up.
Okay, so you need both, the warmth and the fairness.
Exactly. The family really fulfills its identity, its potential, when it keeps both alive. That's the principle of caring.
Even if cultures emphasize one more than the other sometimes, like Western cultures focusing more on feelings now.
Right. Even with cultural shifts, the argument is both are essential for the bond to thrive. And you really see the strength or weakness of this caring principle tested during big family transitions.
Like becoming parents or kids leaving home.
Precisely. Those are moments that reveal the family's core identity and often require redefining it.
Okay, this caring principle, that blend of emotional safety, trust, hope, and fair boundaries, justice, loyalty, this sounds incredibly relevant for a classroom. How can you, listener, apply this in your own setting? It's a temporary group, but still.
It's a fantastic question and absolutely applicable. Your classroom isn't a family, but it is a community. And it thrives when both dimensions are nurtured.
So how do you foster the trust-hope part, the emotional safety?
You do it by creating a space where kids feel genuinely safe. Safe to take risks, ask questions, make mistakes without being shamed. It's about showing consistent emotional support, validating their feelings, offering encouragement, making the classroom warm, inviting, a place they feel they belong.
Having check-ins or focusing on kindness.
Exactly. And then there's the justice loyalty side, the ethical legal part.
How does that look in a classroom?
That's about clear, fair, consistent rules and consequences. It's about promoting respect for everyone, encouraging responsibility, ensuring fairness. Everyone knows what's expected, and everyone feels treated equitably.
Like having classroom agreements everyone helps create, or clear routines for sharing.
Perfect examples.
Yeah.
And the real magic happens when you blend them. Imagine a child is frustrated with a task. You offer emotional support first. I see you're feeling stuck. That's okay. That's trust hope.
Then you gently guide them back to responsibility. Remember our agreement about trying our best. What's one small step you could take right now? That's justice loyalty.
Addressing the feeling and the expectation.
Exactly. You're caring for their well-being and their development as a responsible member of the community. It builds that caring principle right there in the classroom.
Okay, moving from the whole family. The next level is family subsystem identity, and they focus on the couple identity here, the we-ness.
Yes, the we-ness. It's fascinating because when a couple forms, a whole new identity emerges. It's truly different from the sum of the individual partners' identities.
So it's not just two eyes anymore.
Right. People start to see the relationship itself as an entity. Aaron's self-expansion model talks about how, as commitment grows, your idea of self literally expands to include your partner's resources, perspective, identity. You develop this couple-oriented identity.
And this new we isn't just two people merging, it's two family histories coming together, right?
Yeah.
All those patterns we talked about. Absolutely. And for this new couple identity to really thrive, they need to differentiate themselves from their original families, gain some autonomy, some decision-making power as a new unit.
That sounds like Bowen's idea.
It is. Now, how much autonomy is expected varies hugely across cultures, of course, but some level of differentiation is needed everywhere for the couple to build its unique identity, its we-ness, by sort of reworking the legacies they both bring from their families.
And when they become parents, they become a bridge between generations.
Exactly, a linear bridge connecting their kids to the grandparents' lineages.
Okay, so couple identity. Obviously not directly happening with 6-year-olds. But is there an echo of this idea, merging histories, forming a new entity that resonates in the classroom?
I think there is, actually. Think about collaborative groups. Each student brings their history, their knowledge, learning style, home background. For that group to develop its own we-ness and work well, they have to integrate those different perspectives, right? They have to figure out a group approach that's maybe different from how each would do it alone. They collectively re-elaborate ideas.
So the group itself develops an identity.
Exactly. It's a microcosm of that couple dynamic. And your job as teacher is to help them build that cohesive, productive group identity.
Interesting parallel. Okay, third level. Individual identity within the family. This feels like where it gets super practical for understanding kids, especially the filial connection.
Definitely. This is about the parts of your self-concept related to, 1, belonging to your specific family, and 2, the roles you play within it. Child, sibling, maybe later parent.
And the family is like the ultimate in-group.
It usually is, often the most salient one. And again, that membership cannot be psychologically canceled. It's part of your blueprint, even if you reject it.
It's always there.
Always.
Yeah.
And your roles are all connected. Being a parent links back to being a child, links to being a partner. It's an intergenerational chain. And within that chain, the authors stress that the filial relation, being a son or daughter, is the most fundamental. Everyone is a child of someone.
True.
And that connects you not just to parents, but to whole lineages, creating this multi-generational system. And these systems tend to repeat patterns, functional or dysfunctional, across generations. Not deterministically, but there's a strong tendency.
Okay, so how do these patterns get passed down? The source mentions 4 main explanations.
Yeah, 4 different lenses, often overlapping. First, there's a genetic biological piece. Some tendencies, temperament, emotional regulation, maybe even mental health vulnerabilities can have a genetic link passed down.
Nature, basically.
Part of it, yes. Second, psychoanalytic ideas. Things like unconsciously identifying with your same-sex parent, internalizing their values and ways of relating. Deep, often unconscious adoption of patterns. Third, attachment theory. This is huge. We form internal working models of relationships based on early experiences with caregivers. These models shape how we approach future relationships, often leading us to repeat secure or insecure patterns. It's the relational blueprint.
Right, Bowlby and Ainsworth.
Exactly. And fourth, social learning theory. Simple observation and reinforcement. Kids watch how adults interact, solve problems, handle emotions. They see what gets rewarded or ignored, and they tend to repeat those learned behaviors.
Learning by watching.
So, different mechanisms, but they all point to the parent-child relationship being key in transmitting this family heritage, genes, unconscious stuff, relational maps, learned behaviors, which shapes identity.
And then Scabini and Manzi add their own specific angle on how filial identity develops. It's not just passive receiving.
No, their key insight is the importance of personal internalization and, crucially, reelaboration. You don't just inherit this stuff. You have to actively process it, make sense of it, make it your own to develop a healthy identity.
Reelaboration. What happens if you don't do that?
Well, two potential problems. One, you might just reject the whole heritage outright, cut ties completely. Or two, you might just swallow it whole, adopt parental standards without any critical thought or personal ownership. Neither leads to a well-integrated self.
I need to engage with it.
Exactly. Zettner and Renaud broke it down nicely. First, there's what parents want to transmit, transposition. Second, what the child actually receives, perception. And third, the vital part, how the child reconsiders and reworks those patterns. Reelaboration. And this isn't just thinking. It affects your emotions, your ethics, your core sense of self. It's deep work.
Okay, this whole section, inherited patterns, reelaboration. This feels incredibly powerful for you, listener, in the classroom. How does this play out practically?
Oh, it's huge. Remember, kids bring that whole family heritage into your room. It shapes everything.
So step one is observing.
Yes, observing without judgment. You might see reflections of family patterns. A child who's super anxious about mistakes maybe echoes high-pressure family standards. A very nurturing child, maybe mirroring home dynamics. A child struggling to share, perhaps reflecting scarcity issues at home.
Seeing the roots of the behavior.
Exactly. And then, crucially, you can support their reelaboration. You can't change their family, but your classroom can be a space where they can actively engage with and adapt those inherited patterns.
Oh. Can you give examples?
Sure. Say a child is very rigid because of strict rules at home, always needs the one right way. You can gently encourage flexibility. That's a great way. Can we brainstorm other creative ways too? You're helping them reelaborate rigidity into adaptability.
Okay, another one.
Maybe a child struggles to voice their own ideas, always agrees with others, perhaps from a controlling environment. You create safety and prompt them. What's your unique thought on this? Or, tell me more about your idea. You're helping them reelaborate deference into healthy assertion.
Or a child who's impulsive.
You can explicitly teach pausing thinking strategies. When that big feeling comes, what's our plan to think first? You help them reelaborate reactivity into reflection. It's about giving them space and tools to develop their own identity within the context of their heritage.
Okay, so we've seen how family shapes identity. Now, how do individuals and families actually navigate this, especially during those tricky adolescent years? The source talks about individuation and differentiation. They sound similar, but they're not quite the same.
That's right. It's an important distinction. Historically, individuation was the focus, the young person's journey to figure out who they are separate from their parents.
Right.
Older psychoanalytic views, like Bloch's, often framed it as separation, even needing some rebellion to break away and become your own person.
Like you had to push away to find yourself.
Kind of. But the modern systemic view, backed by more research, is different. It sees individuation as gaining autonomy while staying connected, maintaining relatedness.
So you can be your own person and stay close to family.
Exactly. Think growing branches, same roots. Now, differentiation is related, but it's at the family system level. It's about how the family itself manages closeness and distance. Does it allow for the individual's individuation, or does it hinder it?
So individuation is the person. Differentiation is the family system's role.
You got it. And they happen together. It's a systemic co-construction. Both the individual and the family are involved in defining identity.
Which brings us to that term from the relational symbolic perspective, the mutual differentiation process. What's the mutual part about?
The mutual is key. It highlights that it's a two-way street. It's about individuals and families freeing themselves from each other, but still remaining emotionally related.
Not cutting off, but adjusting boundaries.
Precisely. It engages both those symbolic dimensions, trust, hope, and justice, loyalty. And mutual means the family has to allow and even encourage this growth. It can't just be the individual trying to break free. The system needs to adapt too.
The family has to let go in a healthy way.
Right. As Helms Fierlin put it, the family fosters this freedom while maintaining connection.
And this whole mutual differentiation dance, it serves to satisfy three fundamental human needs, essential for adult identity.
Yes, 3 core psychological needs that drive us all.
Okay, what are they?
First, relatedness. That deep need to feel connected, close, to belong. In families, this is met through cohesion, support, warmth. Low cohesion leads to feeling disconnected, disengaged.
The need to belong. Got it.
Second, autonomy. The need for self-governance, making your own choices, feeling like the author of your own life, not being controlled by external pressures.
Feeling in charge of yourself.
Exactly. And third, distinctiveness. The need to have a unique sense of self, to be differentiated from others. Knowing who you are, separate but connected, culture shapes how we express it, but the need itself seems universal.
Relatedness, autonomy, distinctiveness. Okay? So when those last two, autonomy and distinctiveness, are threatened within the family, that's where enmeshment comes in.
Precisely. Family enmeshment is the term for family dynamics that undermine autonomy and distinctiveness. It's about blurred boundaries, lack of respect for individuality.
Like it being smothered.
It can feel like that. It makes it hard for someone to know their own feelings, form their own opinions, make their own decisions within the family context. It's linked to a lack of fairness or recognition of the individual's worth.
Wow. Okay, direct link to the classroom again. Listener, how do these needs, belonging, autonomy, distinctiveness, show up in your elementary classroom? How can you foster them? And what might those echoes of enmeshment look like?
This is where the theory becomes a daily tool. You're already working with these needs constantly.
How so?
With relatedness.
You foster belonging through collaborative work, building class community, maybe a class name or mascot, shared goals, nurturing positive relationships.
Yeah.
That builds classroom cohesion. Kids feel safe, connected.
Okay, and autonomy. Giving genuine choices. Read this book or that one. Work on math now or writing. Show you're learning by drawing or building. Even small choices empower their sense of self-governance, boost motivation.
Makes sense. Distinctiveness.
Celebrating unique ideas. Highlighting individual talents, valuing different ways of thinking. When a child offers something different, you say, wow, tell us more about your unique idea. It shows their distinct contribution matters.
And spotting those echoes of enmeshment.
You might notice things subtly. A child who really struggles with making any independent choice always needs approval. Could be impacted autonomy. A child afraid to share a different opinion always agrees with the group. Possibly impacted distinctiveness.
Or the opposite. A very disconnected child.
Right, that could echo disengagement, maybe struggling with relatedness, needing more explicit connection. Observing these patterns with empathy helps you understand their needs better.
Now, you mentioned enmeshment and cohesion. The source says there was a debate. Are they opposites on one scale or totally separate things?
Yes, a really important debate. The traditional view, like Olson's circumplex model, put them on one continuum. High cohesion eventually became maladaptive enmeshment. Low cohesion was disengagement, so the idea was only moderate cohesion was healthy.
Meaning too close automatically meant smothering. That feels wrong.
It does feel counterintuitive, right? And that's why many scholars push back. The modern view, strongly supported by research now, says they are two separate, independent dimensions.
Separate.
Think of it as intrusiveness, the unhealthy boundary crossing of enmeshment, versus closeness caregiving, the warmth and support of cohesion. You can have high closeness and low intrusiveness.
So a family can be super close and supportive and respect everyone's autonomy and distinctiveness.
Absolutely. They can be tight-knit without being suffocating. That's a crucial shift. You don't have to sacrifice closeness for independence or vice versa. Healthy families manage both.
That's a much more hopeful picture. Okay, this leads to the multidimensional model of family enmeshment, breaking it down even more into 4 dimensions. And looking across cultures, this sounds really useful.
It is incredibly useful, especially the cross-cultural piece. Manzi and colleagues did this big study in Italy, Belgium, the US, and China, and they identified 4 distinct aspects often lumped under enmeshment.
Okay, what's the first?
Promotion of volitional functioning, basically autonomy support. Do parents allow kids to make their own decisions, encourage self-direction? Or are they manipulative, intrusive? The study found this uniquely predicted positive adjustment. It's about respecting the child's capacity to choose.
Okay, volitional functioning. Number 2.
Promotion of independence. This is more about distinctiveness. Do parents encourage kids to think for themselves, express their own ideas, even if different? Or do they impose their own values and views? Interestingly, this one wasn't as strongly linked to adjustment overall as volitional functioning was, suggesting self-directed action might be slightly more critical than just independent thought for general well-being.
Interesting nuance. Third,
family separation. This is more about physical boundaries. Does the family allow individuals enough personal time and space? Or is it hard to get away, always together? Focuses on physical and time boundaries.
right, needing your own space sometimes. And the fourth, this one sounds serious, psychological control.
It is the most serious. This isn't about rules, it's about a fundamental lack of respect for the child's worth as an individual. It involves things like guilt tripping, withdrawing love, invalidating feelings, bringing up past mistakes constantly. It directly attacks the child's sense of self, their core identity.
That sounds awful.
And damaging. Extremely. While it's related to lack of autonomy support, psychological control hits right at the sense of self, leading to feelings of worthlessness. Volitional functioning is more about the capacity to choose. Psychological control is about whether you feel you have inherent value.
In the cross-cultural findings, how did these four play out in different countries regarding depression and well-being? This is key.
Absolutely key. Here's what they found. Psychological control. This was the strongest predictor of depression across all four cultures. Universally toxic. It was the only direct predictor.
Wow. Doesn't matter where you are, that's bad.
Exactly. Promotion of volitional functioning. Autonomy support. This had a significant indirect positive effect in all four cultures. More autonomy support meant less psychological control, which in turn meant less depression. A clear protective pathway.
So supporting choice helps buffer against the bad stuff.
Right. Now, promotion of independence, distinctiveness. This was important for well-being in the Western countries, Belgium, US, Italy, but not for the Chinese participants. This fits with more collectivist cultures, perhaps valuing group harmony over individual assertion.
Interesting cultural difference there.
And family separation, similar pattern, valued more in the individualistic US and Belgium. But for Chinese and Italians, perceiving less separation was actually linked to better well-being or wasn't linked to depression. More closeness, less physical separation felt protective in those contexts.
Fascinating how culture shapes the meaning of closeness and space. Okay, listener, this is where it gets incredibly practical.
Yeah.
These four dimensions, how do they translate directly into what you can do in your elementary classroom?
This research gives you such clear guidelines.
Okay, lay it out. Psychological control first.
1. Avoid psychological control, like the plague. This is non-negotiable. It's universally harmful. Never use shame, guilt, withdrawing affection, or bringing up past failures to manipulate behavior.
So instead of, you're always messy, remember last week.
Exactly. Instead, focus on the behavior. Be future-oriented. Problem solve together. Let's figure out a system to help keep our space tidy. Or, I noticed this assignment was tricky. What support do you need for the next one? Respect their inherent worth, always.
Okay. Number 2, volitional functioning.
2. Prioritize promoting volitional functioning, autonomy. Give genuine choices whenever possible. This builds their sense of agency and protects their well-being.
Like math or reading first. Share by drawing or writing.
Perfect examples. Even small choices empower them. It shows you trust their ability to direct themselves.
3rd, promotion of independence with sensitivity.
3. Navigate promotion of independence, distinctiveness with cultural awareness. In many Western settings, explicitly encouraging unique ideas is great. What's your special idea? But in diverse classrooms, be aware some kids from collectivist backgrounds might be less comfortable standing out.
So how do you encourage them?
Value their contributions within the group. Maybe frame it as, what's a new idea our group could explore? Or, does anyone see this differently? Ensure all unique perspectives are heard and valued, even if expressed more quietly or collectively.
Got it. And finally, family separation. How does that apply?
4. Understand family separation, subtly. You don't control home life, but be aware that needs for personal space versus group time vary. Some kids thrive with independent work time, maybe more individualistic backgrounds. Others feel more secure, always working collaboratively, maybe more collectivist backgrounds.
So it informs how you structure activities.
Exactly. Being away helps you provide a balance and be sensitive to those different needs for connection versus individual space within the classroom day.
Okay, so while our main focus is definitely on the individual child and the classroom, it's worth just quickly touching on how these dynamics, especially differentiation and enmeshment, also impact that other key subsystem, the couple. It kind of reinforces the whole picture.
It really does. The same principles apply. Just like kids need to individuate, couples need to undergo their own mutual differentiation process. They need to build clear boundaries as a new unit, distinct from their families of origin.
Create their own we-ness.
Exactly. Forge that new collective identity connected to the past but not controlled by it.
And the research shows that if someone comes from a highly enmeshed family, it can actually make it harder to form that healthy couple identity, even affect satisfaction.
Absolutely. That Manzi study from 2010 showed exactly that. For both partners, higher levels of enmeshment with their own family of origin predicted two key things in their current romantic relationship.
What were they?
First, less inclusion of the partner into the self, meaning it was harder for them to fully integrate their partner into their sense of self to really build that deep we-ness. The old family ties were kind of crowding out space for the new relationship.
Wow, in a second.
Lower couple satisfaction for both partners. That's crucial. The enmeshment one partner experienced negatively impacted the happiness of the entire relationship. It shows the ripple effect.
That is powerful. So the patterns internalized way back in childhood can directly impact adult romantic relationships years later. The long shadow of family.
It truly demonstrates the enduring impact of those intergenerational patterns. And while this is about adult couples, listener, think about it. The kids in your classroom, their future partners, future parents. The patterns of relating, the sense of self, the balance of autonomy and connection they're developing now, partly in their families, partly in your classroom, that's the foundation they'll build future relationships on. Understanding these long-term impacts just highlights how vital your work is in fostering healthy identity development right now. #OutTrackOutro.
Wow. What a journey. We've really gone deep today, haven't we? Into family, identity. It's so much more complex than it seems on the surface.
It really is. We started by seeing the family not just as people, but as this unique, dynamic system, that dynamic whole responsible for growth.
Right. Then we unpacked family identity at the group level with that vital caring principle, blending trust and justice.
Then at the couple level, needing differentiation to form that we-ness. And crucially, at the individual level, the power of that inescapable filial connection and how patterns get passed down, and the importance of reelaboration.
And that whole mutual differentiation process, finding autonomy while staying connected,
Yeah.
balancing those core needs. Relatedness, autonomy, distinctiveness.
And realizing that closeness and autonomy can coexist. That was a key takeaway. Moving beyond seeing enmeshment and cohesion as opposites.
Definitely. And then digging into those 4 dimensions, especially seeing how damaging psychological control is universally, while things like independence and separation have cultural nuances.
That cross-cultural piece is so important.
For you, listener, working in elementary education, grasping these dynamics, it's not just interesting theory, is it? It feels transformative.
Absolutely. Because kids don't check their family history at the door. They bring that whole developing sense of self, shaped by their family experience, right into your classroom.
And your classroom becomes this incredibly important space, a place where they continue working out that balance of belonging, autonomy, and distinctiveness.
Exactly. And by consciously applying what we've talked about, avoiding psychological control, boosting autonomy through choices, fostering both connection and individuality, you are actively supporting their healthy identity formation every day.
And remembering that cultural sensitivity thread throughout, how these needs are expressed differently. Being aware of that is just essential in today's diverse classrooms.
Crucial.
So as you reflect on all this, maybe consider this. How might your own teaching practices inadvertently echo some family patterns? Maybe subtle control, or maybe stifling unique expression.
Or, conversely, how are you already a powerful force for positive differentiation, helping kids find themselves within a supportive community?
Yeah. How can you intentionally design your classroom, your interactions, to be a place where every single child feels truly seen, feels empowered to choose, feels encouraged to be their unique, authentic self?
While also feeling deeply rooted in belonging.
It's a huge task, maybe, but what an incredible opportunity you have.